Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. I'm Joel Goldberg and hope you are having, I actually had to think about that for a second. Is it Wednesday? Is it Monday? Does it matter? I know you all feel the same. I do. I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, happy Wednesday. No, that was yesterday. So happy Thursday. I hope everyone is having a good, productive day. I hope that everyone out there is most importantly staying safe, staying home if you're able to, and staying healthy. This is episode, I think I said 13. See, it's all blending together. We're going to do something a little bit new, but first off, again, want to thank my title sponsor, Enterprise Bank and Trust, not just for what they're doing in supporting this show, which I think is helping others out, telling stories, and also offering expertise to so many right now. But they helped me out. I was on the phone this morning with Enterprise, and so they're helping me navigate through some of this SBA loan stuff, and we'll have a big discussion on that tomorrow. Want to, as always, remind everyone that if you're looking for local Wagyu beef, veteran-owned and operated company up in Weston, Missouri, they'll deliver to you. They'll deliver to your door. They deliver all over the country. Patrick Montgomery and his crew, all of whom served this country, are now feeding people all over the world. And we order regularly from Casey Cattle Company. So you can check them out online, or you can go to their social media. There you might actually get a nice glimpse at Rowan Patrick Montgomery, Patrick's son, who was born last weekend, I think it was, right in the beginning of April. So hope you'll support that local company. And most importantly, I hope that everyone is healthy. I hope everyone is safe. I mentioned that we're going to do something a little bit different today. I've been doing the one-on-one guests. I'll continue to do that, but I want to start delving into some panel discussions as well. So let me tell you first and foremost about my guests. We've got two of them in two different worlds, but there's some merging here too, and it'll really help us talk about innovation. We'll bring on Lee Mudd in just a moment, who's the owner-president of RLM Underground. They're a telecommunications contractor offering underground fiber optic and cable services all across the country. And that is essential right now. So we'll talk to him about that. And then also, I'm really excited to bring in here in a moment Valerie Jennings and her company, JSMM, social media marketing. And she's been at this since 2005. Just looking through her LinkedIn page, she's been named all kinds of award winners, top 50 influencer by Blogger Local Kansas City, Kansas City's most wanted honoree 2015, most influential women in business class of 2014, on and on. So what really interests me about visiting with Val today, and Lee for that matter, is the pivots that are going on, how they're adjusting, because we all, in some form or another, are having to change what we are doing. So let's see if I can get this one correct right now, because this is my first time with multiple guests. So I am happy to bring into the show right now Lee Mudd and Val Jennings. I think we got everybody up. I think we got everything running. I'll tell everybody at the top, if you have questions, if you're writing on Facebook, just submit them and we'll see what we can get to. Guys, how are you? We'll start ladies first. Val, thanks for joining Rounding the Bases Live. How are things going for you right now?
Well, day by day, Joel, I think that's key, and trying to just look at this as a learning and growth experience. We're all being asked to do things that we're maybe not comfortable doing, or thrown in some situations where we need to solve some challenges, whether it be in our own businesses or for clients. So it really stresses resources, morale, but it's also a time to be fast on your feet and start looking at innovation, looking at things that have worked maybe in the last recession. How do we get crafty with bootstrapping, all the other resources that are available to us? It's definitely a different environment than what businesses went through in the last recession, but there's certainly things that we can be doing from an innovation standpoint. So the key here is keeping your head clear, keeping your focus, and not panicking.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think, by the way, that is advice that applies to everyone in every industry, whether you're working right now, whether you're not working right now. Lee, in your case, you are essential business. So, two-part question here. One, I want you to explain why you are essential. And two, just because that means you are busy doesn't mean that there aren't challenges with this right now, right?
Correct, Joel. And it's kind of crazy because right now everyone's struggling, trying to figure out what to do. And on our end, we're busier than ever. We're essential because what we're doing is providing these telecommunications, these fiber optic services that are allowing us to do what we're doing now. It's allowing us to be on social media, to have these podcasts. And the biggest thing is, what we've seen right now is we're working with schools. And a lot of our projects are connecting schools with their own private network. And right now it shows that's why it's so essential. These kids are, whether they're learning from home through Zoom meetings or virtual learning, this stuff doesn't happen unless these places have the best and fastest internet service. So, and for us, like you said, we're busy. It's a good thing, but there's some negatives that come with it. We had guys traveling all throughout the country and they're worried. We sent some crews out to the East Coast, which is hit a lot harder than the Midwest is. And they're nervous. They're asking us, what are we going to do to protect? What are we going to do, hotel wise? And we really have to put into perspective of, we need to keep moving, keep connecting these schools, these cities with what they have, but we also need to do it in the safest and smartest way.
Right. And I think that, I think we all think so much, I hope, throughout the day after day about all of our first responders and the medical community and the way that they're throwing themselves in there. And they deserve every bit of our attention because they're sacrificing. Yes, it's great they're getting paychecks, but they're also potentially putting their lives on the line and they're needing to be safe. And so I know that's the same for so many of your employees and your workers right now in doing that. So let's continue the discussion a little bit. And Val, really leading into what Lee is saying. I mean, we are all relying on internet right now. It is our way to connect to the world. And you figured that out. Look, everybody lives in the social media world right now. It's hard for me to believe that some people are first stumbling upon it, but I get it. Not everyone does. In your world, you do. In my world, I absolutely do. I mean, that started just because of the connection with Royals, but now I know that, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through Instagram, through Twitter, and whatever new ones are coming. I'm not really doing the whole Snapchat thing. I'll leave that one to my teenagers, but you need to be there right now.
Yes.
What got you there so early? Because you figured out this digital world. And I'm guessing the little I know about you that really helped set you up for where you're at today and in recent years. This was not a new discovery for you.
No. So I started the business in 2003 and it was traditional public relations. And I kept getting the same question over and over again. Oh, this is great press coverage, but what's the ROI on it? And so I was hunting for a solution for, to monetize the PR and to look at some real-time data. And in 2005, I started reading about blogging and blog directories and YouTube and online press releases. And back then it was PR web. So I decided to start testing in 2005 for clients. We didn't charge extra for this service. We just incorporated it into the PR kit that we were doing. And the goal was to see where the press release was picked up online. Did the client get website traffic and did that traffic convert? So we were, tracking it all the way back through the press release. We were also doing a lot of videos, putting things up on YouTube, working through the SEO opportunities. So that really set us up for success. Not just today, but I mean, we had tremendous success doing a lot of pilot programs for publicly traded companies really early on. And what it's done though for us now is that we have all this data and information and A/B testing that's been created. So we can go back and look at previous performance across industries and at least have some sort of baseline. But it's such a great opportunity for clients, especially if they really want to test with a conservative budget, to do A/B split tests on different advertising platforms. So it's a way for companies maybe that've been around for like 50 years, and we have some clients like that have been around for 50 some years and never really done digital, to move into that with some trust and credibility and looking at case studies and data and knowing there's going to be constraints around what we test. We're not going to ask for big ad budgets. And that's the benefit for some more conservative industries to start pivoting in digital. Speaking of, though, today, just some early data is showing, yes, social media engagement is off the charts, but it's really related to COVID, working from home, some of those things. But ad conversions are down in a lot of industries right now. So the pivot in the innovation comes from looking at early data, getting in front of clients, completely overhauling ad programs that had already been in place, and either doubling down in areas that are working, like traditional public relations, influencer, SEO, really high quality, authentic content that connects with your audience, and keeping an eye on your ad spends. People want to connect. They may not buy today, but they might buy in 30, 45, 60 days. And so you don't want to go dark right now, right? You want to be a warrior and stay in front of your communities. You need your communities to know that you are there for them. So that's some of the high level advice we've given to clients. But again, it all comes back to the data and the data that we have available.
I think you're so dead on because, I found myself, okay, there's no baseball right now, so that business has closed off on me, and hopefully Lee and I were talking beforehand. Hopefully that's back sooner rather than later. I don't know. Nobody knows. They're talking about stuff, but in my mind, I'm thinking July. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's sooner. I certainly don't hope that it's later. We don't know. But what I figured out, and not immediately, was, look, it's not the time to sell right now. Yes, you can always be selling, but no one wants the hard sell right now. So, for those that want to sit and not want, but if you're sitting around and waiting and, okay, when all this is over, I'll get going. Well, this is the time to lay that groundwork for later. And by working on those relationships right now and staying in front of people through content, you have that leg up when everything comes back. And so, in Lee, in your case, it's a different industry, right? Like you said, you are essential right now. At the same time, to me, it's interesting because you are in sort of a old school industry, right? I mean,
Correct.
and I know what you're working on is more new. It's technology. However, I'm guessing you got a lot of old school tough guys out there doing their thing. How does that all mesh together right now in the midst of the needs, the safety? We talked about safety before, but how does that all mesh together in that old school way, providing new school necessities, if that's the way to put it?
It's tricky. We have older employees, we have younger ones, and during these times, you see a lot of different things clash. You see the younger, new generation of employee, they're worried about it. They're saying, oh, we can't go here or we can't do this. And then you got your old school, been around the block a few times, and they don't care. They want to work. You can put them in any weather, any conditions. You'll never hear a word. But it is tough. It is tough to, if you have to give employees face masks to wear, those old school employees there, they kind of look at you like, dude, I'm not wearing that. It is tricky. It really is. But the newer school employees, the newer generation really help the old school employees. They help them with things that they don't understand. So there are good and there's bad sides to it. it's having the right people in place to make sure those mesh together.
This is a really interesting topic, guys, and I want to follow up on it a little bit because to me, and by the way, this applies to all fields. Val, you see it because I'm sure that your younger clientele, they want to jump in with all the social media stuff, and they're living in that world. And you have to convince a little bit of that older clientele. I want to be careful with how I use those words. I've learned this from baseball players. You don't ever say the word old, you say veterans, at least in the world of baseball. Or we could say those with more experience in the industry, whatever works for semantics. But it's interesting because you have to find a way to blend all that together. I was talking to a good friend of mine the other day. I won't mention his name. I think he could probably figure out how to find this, but maybe not. But he was talking about how everybody, he loves the face-to-face. All right, he's a finance guy, and he misses the hugs and the handshakes. And he was talking about he very much be a totally different feel, but he'd be that guy you're talking about. Like, I'm not doing this, And so we actually met at a park, and I certainly made sure that we distanced well across benches from each other to be able to chat. And he was like, everybody's doing all these Zoom calls and these Ring calls, and I'm like, is there? I don't even know if there is I know I have a Ring doorbell. I don't even know. So my point to that is, we do have this merging of generations, which, by the way, is not new. That could be a problem. I've seen it in a lot of offices. You got your old school, you got your new school, you got your Gen X or your baby boomers, and then you got your millennials or even your Gen Zs. So how, Lee, are you finding a way of bringing them together? You said the younger guys are teaching the older guys. Are the older guys teaching the younger guys too? How is that working?
Well, it like I said, it's hand in hand. And I've met with Val so many times on this issue. Is this industry is so old school. There's nothing about it. We've tried to bring the new school to it with the social media, the marketing, but the older guys help in more of a teaching way. Mm-hmm. They're more hands-on. Let me show you how to do this. So it's kind of weird if you watch them, because the younger guys, they'll help in ways of the technology that needs to be used on the job site, the production reports that have to be submitted. But the old school guys are, like I said, hands-on. They don't like this new version. They don't like filling out safety audits at the beginning of the job, or if somebody gets sick, documenting it and saying, hey, that we might have to shut this job down because somebody is sick. So the old school it's really hard to explain how they help, but they're so pivotal in teaching the young how to, deal with times like this, how to buckle down while they're at work and deal with work, because a lot of the younger people are worrying about what's going on at home. Are their families okay? And it's just, like I said, it's a generational thing that I myself have trouble with at times, because, like I said, I am a part of that new generation, but I like the old school mindset. So it's, it's pretty crazy to see how they work together, and it's kind of hard to explain because it's non-conventional.
Well, let's continue that discussion, Val, because I believe that RLM and Lee, they're a client of yours, and Lee is I would imagine, one of the younger CEOs around that I know. But what's so interesting, like he was just saying, is he is a very young CEO in a very old school profession. And so I don't care what profession you're in, unless you have an office full of millennials, or unless you have an office full of boomers, you have to figure out how to make this work. So how do you, in your world that is always evolving, by the way, in the marketing world, you can't be living in the past. You have to be up on what's new. That's what helped you get to where you're at today. Yeah. How do you convince those two worlds to come together right now? I think this could help a lot of people.
Honestly, I haven't noticed that we need to convince anyone to come together right now. I think where the disconnect sometimes happens is that we are so forward thinking with the technology and the AI and the MarTech that it's overwhelming, or can be overwhelming, to certain clients. I have kind of across the board, some clients are like, yes, I always want to do the latest. I always want to adopt the newest trends. And then I have others that, we introduce things over time, but it's supported with research or examples of what competitors are doing. And so I've learned to bridge that gap through education. It's a little bit longer process, but our approach is through partnership and transparency and collaborative relationships. There was an agency study that came out a couple years ago that said you typically don't have most of your clients engaged. It's a smaller portion of clients that are overly engaged, and then many that aren't. We have, I would say, 99% participation. The calls are very robust. We cover a lot of data. We talk about what competitors are doing. We're always looking at what is the next thing that we could adopt, or how do we be more inclusive with our partners. And then we look at what's working and what isn't working. So that's how I've worked on bridging this. We do have a lot of millennials that work with us. And so I think sometimes they just want to be able to try things, and they want to have that trust. But business doesn't always work that way. We have other operations and budgets and, things that we just need to consider. Sometimes less is more. So it's navigating those relationships. Throughout COVID, our clients have been extremely communicative. We've had lots of text messages, calls, Zoom calls. Things have continued. So obviously we have some big changes that we've had to make, but all in all, I would say across the board, everybody is working well together. Everybody understands this is a unique time, and we have to make some sacrifices. Our team has logged a lot of hours the last few weeks, and we've been very responsive to clients, very quick turnarounds, and I think that's part of the partnership, right? That's in these times, this is when we need to work together.
No question. And I sit there and I think now about how you both have had to adjust to what's going on. We all have, no matter what industry you're in, mine included. Look, I'm sitting here. I showed you this. We had a quick little call yesterday, the three of us. I'm essentially sitting in a closet that's turned into a studio, and that's fine. Like it's working, right? I generally would be sitting out on a big desk with major lights and cameras and a set out in left field at Kauffman Stadium, which I think we would have been there for a day game, like right about now. I think playing the Detroit Tigers. I've started to lose track because it doesn't matter anymore for the moment. The world is changing for all of us. And I want to hit each of you with this. We all can so get into our comfort zones. One of the things that I have learned, so look at this, like I didn't figure this out in one day, but I also feel like I had to do something. Like I like to work, first of all. And so I adjusted. Is it as good as it was before? No, but I think I could still be effective. So what would you say, Val, for no matter what people do, what's a good piece of advice of pivoting here or adjusting and innovating on the fly?
Well, I think it's important to point out that we all deal with crisis differently. Some of us, like you want to find solutions. You want to jump in. You want to try to remedy the problem, or how can you be a resource? For some of us, we shut down, right? And it's not as easy for us to find our motivation, or we just go into reaction mode. And so first of all, you really have to understand what kind of person are you in these situations. If you're an action-oriented person, then you need to make sure you're balanced out with some more conservative thinkers, right? Whether those are mentors or people around you, just to make sure you're not over responding and saying, oh, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. That's not necessary either. And then for the people that kind of just freeze, you need to make sure that you're partnered up or have some great mentors that are your cheerleaders and that are going to support you and encourage you. And that's tough for entrepreneurs because we don't always like to ask for help. We're very independent thinkers. And then it's like, oh, am I weak because I reached out and asked somebody for a favor, or I feel bad because we're all experiencing this. So you have to trust yourself, but you have to have enough sense to know what's best for you. As far as pivoting, most of the pivoting, I think for what I've seen has pretty much happened. But I think there's lots of different advice from operations standpoint, but really just keeping an eye on data, whether that's financial data, operations data, your marketing data, advertising, and really looking at those reports each week. If it's not your strength to understand what the data says, again, ask for some help. There's lots of resources. People do want to help right now. And so it's keeping an eye on that information and then being able to move forward and make some decisions with it.
Lee, on your end, we did talk a little bit about being necessary and making sure those schools have internet and the places that need it around the country. But you also talked about safety. These are new challenges. What if any? I mean, just because you're busy and working doesn't mean that there haven't been pivots for you. What does that look like on your end?
Joe, the biggest thing is, we just have to we can't put people together. We got a social distance, as obvious, but in our industry, we're working out. People aren't really close to each other. You have guys spread out down the street, or whether it's a field. The biggest thing that we've seen is when we have guys out of town, we have to double up on hotel rooms. People get their own. People travel in their own trucks. So it's a great thing that we're working, but you also see the financial hardship. You got to double up on everything. You have to double up on the cost of living when you're traveling. You got to double up on gas for vehicles. So it's stuff like that we have seen, and we have let our customers know, and our customers are great. They understand this, and they understand that, this is a hostile time, and, measures and change orders and stuff are put in place. But the biggest thing is getting the connectivity that we're trying to install and doing it the safest way, because we could build, all these networks, make all this money. But if we put people at risk and one person gets hurt, a life is worth more than any monetary value.
No question. I want to follow up on that. And it's back to the safety thing again, Lee. But when you talk about those old school guys, I'm not wearing a mask and this is whatever, right? I mean, I get it. That's sort of that tough guy. That's the way they're built. Maybe not every single one too. I don't want to stereotype or label, but I think that's, the people that I've heard from that have said, oh, this is over an overreaction. This is that. I personally, I tend, and I think I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, I'm Gen X, even with all the white hair, but I tend to follow the science. I'm not a scientist. I don't know a whole lot about medicine, but I tend to think that those folks are the experts. And so they say, stay home or social distance. That's what I'm doing. But how do you convince your older generation employees that this is the way it has to be, and whether they believe it or they don't? I mean, you want to get that job done, but like you said, health, safety. Listen, man, you don't want to. Nobody wants to lose anyone here, and I know you don't want to lose any employee or have anybody have to go to the hospital or anything like that, any more than any one of us want our family members or anything like that to happen to. So how do you convince them if they're not fully believing it? Lee, I'll throw that one to you. I don't know if he still hears me or not. Oop, I think we lost those guys.
Connection.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. So this happens, by the way. We're dealing with this from time to time. It's the way it rolls. You'll see it on TV too. Everybody's dealing with it. But my question, if you heard it or not, was just how do you convince that older tough guy? That is a stereotype, but how do you convince them if I'll be fine? How do you convince them that they've got to follow these rules, whether they believe it or not?
The biggest thing is we have safety coordinators in place, safety personnel. You want to work, you want to make money, you want to provide, you got to play by the rules, and our rules are if the job site requires you to wear a mask or whatever it is, you got to do it. If you don't do it, then go home. And it's tough because I'm a younger person, obviously, but I'm a hard-headed individual, if you want to say that. So, I have to take a step back, and not only, I might have my mindset, but I can't portray that to my employees, because I got to tell them that, hey, this is serious, because it is. Whether I think it or not, or how I feel, really doesn't matter to anyone. So, it's as simple as, you want to work, you have to play by the safety rules. Yeah. And in our industry, safety is kind of, these safety guys or safety women are not liked very well. But, they know, and guys on the job site, managers know, that the safety people have my backing. So if they say something, it's coming straight from me or our customers. And then, we're not going to jeopardize anything for any monetary value. So we just say, if you want to work, you want to be here every day, just be safe. Do what the safety guys tell you. They're here for a reason. They don't do it just because they enjoy doing it. They do it because it's the right and safe thing to do.
Well, Val, you were shaking your heads, nodding along as Lee was talking about being a young guy that's hard-headed. I'm sure that's not with you, but no, not at all. But I mean, I'm curious your take on that one, because you do have clients of all ages and of all different types of professions, and you've got to convince them in terms of messaging and content and all of that. And look, if RLM suddenly has health issues, that's a story. I mean, beyond the fact that it's scary and it's the last thing anybody would want for any human being, that's not good for production and business, let alone image too. So I'm assuming you're dealing with that messaging every single day.
We actually have quite a few clients in the manufacturing industry, and they're considered essential. They're practicing social distancing. We've talked about how much do we want to convey that they're open versus the COVID messaging. And it is a fine line. If you're essential, in Lee's case, he's considered essential, as are a lot of our clients. We've cautioned our clients to put some messaging out there that says, we're essential, we're following protocol, and we are open. For a lot of these clients, we've kind of just decided that after that, we're just going to continue posting content, business as usual. So the safety part needs to be managed, of course. And Lee's right, like whatever your feelings are on the subject, it doesn't matter. You have to follow the rules. And we have to just look at this as, this is the information we have available, and we need to be as safe and cautious and well organized as possible. And there is a balance between people, that want to be, they want to have some type of normalcy, go to their job, and they don't want to have to deal with all of this. But as an owner of a company, you just don't have a choice. That's why you're a leader. You just have to make those decisions that are in the best interest of the employees. So I haven't had to do a lot of convincing, but we've had a lot of really good conversations about how much is too much, sharing, what do we want to say, how is this going to be implied, and how much do we want to continue with just regular messaging. So it really is on a case-by-case basis. We only have a couple of clients that aren't considered essential. So, and this has been pretty consistent across the board with how we've handled this issue, how we've addressed it. So I think what Lee's doing is absolutely what any leader should be doing that's in that essential category. And because people have limited facts, and we just have to default to a more conservative position right now.
Yeah, really good point. So final thought, I'll throw one last question out to each of you, and I'll go to Lee first. And certainly I want to open it up for both of you if you have any final thoughts, but I'll cue you up this way. Lee, in terms of running a company, how critical do you feel your role is right now? I mean, my belief for any good company is every role matters, and that's top down and bottom up. I mean, everybody is a part of a team. But right now, when people need to be led, when there are question marks, when there are pivots, when there's concerns about safety and health and just the unknown right now too. For a lot of people, this virus is not really tangible yet until you know someone that has it. We all know it's affecting us. What have been your biggest keys to leadership through this, Lee? And just if you have any final thoughts, feel free.
For my all my employees, just keep their head down. Try not to worry, try not to stress, because everybody knows that really doesn't get you anywhere. And like I said, I firmly, and I will always say this, that I'm the most least important person at my company, because I've tried to make it to where everybody falls in place, everybody can do their job, and I sit back and just organize them. But they do come to me and ask, hey, should we be worried about our job? Should we be worrying about work? Do we have work? And it's just a constant reassurance that I have to give them that, hey, you're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. If we get shut down, we've done the right things where we can keep you employed to make it through this. So the leadership thing is key, but my leaders are out in the field. My leaders are at home right now. I'm kind of just a coach that's pointing them in every direction. But the real leaders are the guys that are working every day on the jobs, behind the scenes. So I really can't take credit for them. So.
No, it's well said. From the sports world, we would say, let the players play, and and push those buttons and let them go. Give them the best tools to allow them to do their job as best as possible, and of course, in this case, as safely as possible. Val, will give you the final word on this one, and I think you're so in tune with everything in the social media world and in terms of content and messaging. How about just a final word right now that'll apply to everyone out there?
As far as content messaging, just be really sensitive to what you're posting, and make sure it still connects with your brand and your company. I would not recommend any hard selling right now. It seems to offend people. It's really a time to be a resource, to step up and lead, to put positive messaging out there. You will be remembered for what you do during this time. So every day, think about what actions you're taking, whether that be in front of your team or clients or the general public. And so, we will return to some sort of transitionary period and then eventually some sort of new normal. But people aren't going to forget, but they will remember the businesses that were there for them, that were either proactive in their community, continue to post relevant information, and didn't just completely collapse. So the data is key, and leading with a positive example is really important right now.
Well said. Both of you guys have been great. I'm so glad we got to do this. Somebody had to be my first panel, and I'm going to try to do one or two of these a week, because I just think it's interesting discussions. And then some of the other ones are focusing on some of the heroes in the area and what they're doing with their companies or pivoting that way. I mean, we're all in this together in some form or another. We all can contribute. And, a little bit of what Lee was saying too about everybody having that role and being a part. And we all can do that. So I want to thank both of you for sharing insights on innovation, how you're pivoting, how you're leading, how you're bringing those generations together. I know it's not easy, but it's really, really interesting to me to follow this discussion. So Valerie Jennings, Lee Mudd, thank you both so much for doing this. And I wish you both continued success. Let's stay in touch. Let's see how we can help people. And thanks. I really, really, really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Joel. It was fun.
Thank you so much, Joel. It was great.
They like that. We just lost Lee for a moment, which is okay. I may talk to those guys offline in just a moment, but a big thanks to Val and Lee for that. That was a really interesting discussion, and one that I think and hope will apply to anyone out there. I've got a panel discussion tomorrow on SBA loans, small business loans. There's so much, I don't know if confusion is the right word, but there's so much going on with that. And I know a lot of people have questions. So I'm going to have two experts on this discussion tomorrow. I want to remind everybody that you can check out Casey Cattle Company on their social media or their website. They deliver that Wagyu beef is amazing. And I can't thank Enterprise Bank enough. Hashtag no stopping you. I love that hashtag. Let's keep on pushing forward together. I'll be back for the Friday edition. Yeah, tomorrow's Friday of Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Again, thanks to Lee Mudd and Val Jennings, and we'll catch you here tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.